So a year ago, the Chargers, there was a lot of high hopes. They came off of a playoff berth in 2022, ultimately crumbled against the Jaguars. They were looking to get the offense jump-started, bringing in Kellen Moore, trying to add on to a defense that was already really good. Then the wheels kind of fell off. They lost to the Dolphins. They really go to the wire against the Vikings. It was really back and forth the entire season. Justin Herbert gets hurt. Keenan Allen gets hurt. And it was ultimately how the season ends there. But let's talk about a Thursday night game where, the Chargers got absolutely smacked. Was 66-21 or whatever the score was. But yes, Brandon Staley, the man in the upper left corner, my bad, fired and replaced by that man, the national champion from the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh, in the hopes that maybe he can do some NFL magic like he did with the 49ers a decade ago in 2024. So what's interesting about these episodes, too, is it's the 53-man roster. So we get to actually see on paper what are they looking at post the day after the 53-man roster cuts are. So to the offense we go. Herbie fully loaded. He's still under center. They overhaul the running backs here. Austin Eckler goes to our nation's capital. They bring in his brother's running backs here, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, to be the 1-2 combo here for your Los Angeles Chargers. An overhaul on the receiving core. No more Mike Williams. No more Keenan Allen. Williams cut. He goes to the Jets. Keenan Allen gets traded to the Bears on dimes on the dollar, pennies on the dollar, next to nothing. But DJ Chark trying to revitalize his career after being not so big in the last couple of years, kind of like hiding in and out of like injuries and stuff like that. A lot of McConkey goes early in the second round to the Chargers. And another great piece I like, Brendan Rice, which is Jerry Rice's son. So maybe we can have another Hall of Fame receiver now playing out on the West Coast.
Well, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this team. Not to mention new head coach. Not to everything about this you can't take past knowledge and apply. Everything is new. This offense is an entirely new offense, top to bottom. Nothing's the same basically, except for Herbert, obviously. I don't know, man. I don't know. How do you go from Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, everything that we've known of the Chargers for the last 5 or so years to now, this. I don't know how to judge this offense or this team. So yeah, I don't know. It's, to me, obviously not going to be as successful, I would think, on paper, but let's see, I guess, what they put together. I don't know.
I mean, we knew that they were going to go offensive line to draft because they better hope the strategy they're setting up works. They're going to have to run the ball and have that Harbaugh team running and running. It might be have to be more extreme than Michigan with a much better quarterback.
And they just traded for one of his former running backs there. Haskins. He comes now in, but who knows where he's going to be planted on this roster right now, because I know it's a weird time for every NFL team. It gives me a lot of like that 2011 San Francisco vibes where it's like, okay, yeah, you had your Michael Crabtree, which you could probably plug in McConkey or Chark into. You have a really good offensive line with the likes of like Staley, Boone up in the front there. I'm not saying Herbert's is like Alex Smith, but I don't know. It's just like he's not the man that has to be like, okay, yeah, I have to pass it 45, 50 times a game and try to drive the ball down the field myself. It's now a team effort instead of just an individual effort.
The thing is, at least they have good tackles. Mm-hmm. The rest of it is who knows. But at least they have someone like Justin Herbert who can pull them out of bad situations with just his talent. They're probably going to need it.
And I would think that I know Brandon Staley's play calling and just in situational stuff really held this team back. I know we talk nothing but pretty much exclusively negative things about Brandon Staley.
For good reason.
Yeah, I lead that train, I'm sure. But there was a lot of instances where decision making made no sense, play calling made no sense in certain situations where it I really felt like it held back Justin Herbert. So I would like to think that is definitely certainly not going to happen. But obviously, we're not talking about the same guys catching the balls as those teams as well. So I really don't know. I have zero clue how I want to judge this team. I mean, I love J.K. Dobbins, but like we kind of still have yet to see what that could look like. I don't know. It's just tough, dude. I really have a impossible time coming up with what this team's going to do. Personally.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest team to judge, honestly, how they're going to do. Because
especially on paper. Like, you look at this team, you look at these receivers, no one's impressed.
Besides the fact that it's a new coach and it's basically a whole new receiving core.
Yeah.
New scheme. Even like what should be their star running back has been hurt every other year. And it's like a factor of, well, if this guy can stay healthy, a new scheme.
Yep. Yeah, I have no clue. So, and I don't hate any of it exactly. I just have no idea how it's going to go.
Hey, it worked in college.
Yeah. Colton, what do you got?
Hey, all the trust in the national championship winner and Jim Harbaugh. So I think this team, the biggest upgrade was coaching. That's kind of held this team back. You get one of the best tackles in the draft in Joe Alt. So again, I think he knows what he's building. It's going to be a process, and this is going to be a team that competes. That's the Jim Harbaugh thing. They compete, and they're going to come back next year. It's going to be like build this team, keep Justin upright, and we'll go from there. That's what this team is.
That's kind of the vibes I thought. This is year one of a multi-year stage plan.
It is. Why are you going to go out and panic? Like, by the time that traded Keenan Allen, it's like, why'd you trade Keenan Allen away? Well, the thing is, they're not going to be ready for Keenan Allen by the time this thing gets up and run and this goes on the road. So you might as well trade, see what you can get, build the roster up. And you already got your quarterback, still young. So it's like, oh, shoot, you got 2 years left of Justin Herbert. Nah, they don't. They have 10 years left of Justin Herbert. So let them build this thing the right way. And he knows how he wants to build it. Build it with an offensive line, run the football, and you have a special quarterback in Justin Herbert. So, I mean, it's a Michigan thing. It's a Harbaugh thing. You transform quarterbacks. He's going to get Justin Herbert to the next level, just like he got Colin Kaepernick to the next level. So just like he got J.J. McCarthy to the next level. I mean, it's the same thing. He's going to do the same thing here. He's going to take Justin to the next level. You're just not going to see it this season. It's going to be next season when they finally bring in a legitimate receiver. And you never know. He may get the best out of Quentin Johnson, their former first-round pick out of
TCU.
Frogs. TCU. That's it. The Horny Frogs. The Horny Frogs. So, I get something out of him. So, I mean, and Joshua Palmer's a solid receiver. So, that's done them some good there in L.A. So, I think this team's going to surprise people. But we all know who the king of this division is. Like, we're going to get to it. Where this is going. So, it's a building process here for the Chargers.
I mean, if you hit on half of these decisions that you made, like, I mean, just like half of this roster that you brought in and stuff, if you have a hit on half of them with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, I think that's okay. I think that works for you. I think for this season, that's an accomplishment. I think you're good. I think that's just like, all right, now we're moving on to next season where it's going to get better, where it's going to, you need to establish some building blocks, obviously, and no one's looking at this receiving core and loving it right now. Mm-hmm. But, if you can make a decision by the end of the season, like, yeah, we really liked this guy. We're committing to this guy. Maybe McConkey's just, maybe that works out really well. And they might not be winning games, but they're accomplishing what they need to accomplish for the future, and I'm okay with that.
I think the main thing is, like, they want to keep Herbert upright, and they haven't been able to with Brian Bulaga, who left, and then Corey Lindsey retired early. So, capitalizing on Bozeman at center and Joe Wall, I think the main focus here is keeping them upright, and, you're going to get your running backs involved early, depending on how.
And I mean, the fact that they got Ladd McConkey is huge. He's probably one of the most underrated wide receivers in this draft. Clearly, you have your neighbors. I'm forgetting the other wide out on top of my Marvin Harrison Jr. Maserati Marv. So you, outside of those guys, a lot of people loved Ladd McConkey going through this draft process and everything.
He's going to be a stud.
The fact that they were able to, weren't they able to trade back and get him? Did they trade back?
I think so.
Right? Why do I feel like they traded back in the draft?
I mean, regardless, he's a really good between the hashes, over the middle, move the sticks kind of guy. Which, if you can run the ball effectively and pick up third downs with him, it works.
I also don't mind Chark at all.
I mean, he has to still prove himself. I mean, ever since that 1 year in Jacksonville, he's not really been much of anything around the league.
But like, I don't mind that he's given this chance. He had speed. He was not the most. He wasn't not the most talented route runner. He was not the most physical receiver. But I mean, man, like if you have flashes in a game and it works out, it works out. I don't. You're building this team right now with like house money. The expectations are low. So.
And they also didn't have a lot of money to work with because it was like, okay, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa all combined for like $100 million.
Than like actual financially. No. I just mean like the expectations.
This offense reminds me a lot of the Raiders from a few years ago when they had Renfro and like two good offensive linemen, to where they like just had to run the ball with Jacobs and hope Hunter Renfro could pick up the third down.
See, I'm going to throw this up because this is what Josh just said. Right?
I don't think that's true whatsoever.
I don't think that's true whatsoever either.
He's not going back to get sanctioned.
He's just gonna prove like I should have never been out of the NFL. I got fucked by the Niners. I was forced to leave. I went to Michigan. Blah 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 blah. I won a national championship. Now I'm back, and I'm gonna stay here till I decide. You know what? I'm done coaching.
So I said this years ago. Jake might remember this. I said this years ago on the show, actually, with at least Jake and Will. When the Raiders hired John Gruden, it might have been his second year. I said, this is a plan. It's not an immediate like success. Like, you signed him as your head coach. We're building this team pretty much almost from the ground up. You have a quarterback. Yeah. You've made all the changes in the world on this offense. Like, this is a plan for years, not this year we're going to succeed. No one's saying that. Harbaugh's probably not saying that. Like, you got to think of this team with lower expectations, the expectations to be, okay, Harbaugh's here. This is a serious head coach like Gruden was, or expected to be at least.
Well, he was, and then the NFL kind of said, we don't want you here.
But, you got to expect this to be a plan. He's got a plan. This will last years. That's just how it is. That's how it goes, and we haven't even started the first year of that plan. So
let's jump into the defense here, because I know we've been sitting on the offense here for a big chunk of time.
This is a notable offense.
I know, and then the tight ends too. And we didn't even get to talk about this, but
they're good tight ends. Boom, done.
Yeah, so the additions on here are Poona Ford at defensive line, Bud Dupree at linebacker, Troy Dye at linebacker, Denzel Perryman returns after a really, 8-year hiatus from there. And then you got Christian Fulton at corner. They made an acquisition for a cornerback today from the Titans who was a starter for most of the season last year. I can gladly get the name up here really quick. And there it is. Defensive back Elijah Molden. So, fresh start for him. They just try to rebuild this team as much as they can. Whenever money frees up, it frees up. So,
I don't mind this defense because you have guys. You have Khalil Mack. You have Derwin James. You have Asante Samuel. You have Joey Bosa, kind of. Like, Khalil Mack was great last year. I don't know if you guys remember the stretch where
How can I forget Khalil Mack? Because the first snap that Brandon Staley had on defense, he put Khalil Mack up against Tyreek Hill in the slot. How could I forget? How could I forget Khalil Mack last year?
Okay. Well, that's not the stretch I was talking about, obviously. But that's
still to this day the fact that man had a head coaching job in the NFL.
6 sacks by Khalil Mack against the Raiders. Yeah,
Yeah, he had a really solid stretch last year. Yeah, he's not a shell of himself yet. But there's guys on this team. Like, this is a competent defense, I think. So
This team is deep at edge rusher.
yeah.
Good luck. Good thing I'm not playing offensive line or quarterback for that matter.
Like this team's got a kind of terrifying front, to be honest. Khalil Mack. I hate to say Joey Bosa. I hate to put Joey Bosa.
Joey Bosa is good, but like, when was
That's
the last time you played a full healthy season?
Yeah, that's like kind of.
Like if you get 5 games out of Joey Bosa.
It's like why I liked the Chargers so much last year is they had the weapons on offense and the defense was really good. They just always get hurt.
Yeah.
And then Brandon Staley's an idiot.
Well, I'm forgetting the kid's name. He's behind Joey Bosa. He played really good for them last year. It's
Tuli
kid. I don't even want to pronounce his last name. I watched Brian Baldinger try to do it, and I chuckled to myself, and I'm like, "Oh, Baldy!"
I love Baldy.
A Baldy's breakdown, so I appreciated his efforts there. But the fact that you have him and you have Bud Dupree as backing up these two guys, like that played really well for them last season. That's why, like, I know from a Baldy breakdown, like watching him, and then like I'd watch a Charger game, like, oh, he's in the backfield again. That's a really good player. So they have 4 legitimate like guys that can come in and get the quarterback. So this is gonna be a defensive team. This is literally written up like a Jim Harbaugh team. Defense and run the ball. And then you have decent quarterback play to go along with it, which he has here, where it took him a few years at Michigan to get that decent quarterback play to put him over the edge with J.J. McCarthy. Now he has it with Herbert.
One of the more underrated pieces, though, here is Tony Jefferson, who was kind of like been out of the league for the last 2 years. He comes in, and Trey Lance essentially secures him a 53-man roster spot after his 5-interception performance to conclude the preseason. So I'm happy that Tony Jefferson's back in. I know he was at one point a Cardinal, and then he was a Raven, and then kind of like out of the league due to injuries. Now he's back. Hopefully he stays healthy because he's a very fun defensive back to watch. He's a part of that like other era of like defensive backs. Not like your Ed Reeds or your Dawkins, but he's kind of like that in between like 2010s ones, just before your Derwin Jameses.
He wasn't on the Niners Harbaugh team, right? Like, no chance.
No, Tony Jefferson wasn't.
That was way too many years ago. Yeah. All right.
I mean, he was on the other Harbaugh, but not that one.
You're fair.
So let's look at the one. Let's move on to the schedule here. I can read it. So this is
a bad schedule. Yellow is away. White is home.
I really like week 1. That is like a very telltale matchup for both the Chargers and the Raiders. Not going to like, hey, solidify the season, but it's like Antonio Pierce, who fought his way and the players fought his way to get him a head coaching position. Harbaugh returns back. And yeah, that's an excellent week 1 matchup.
We're going to learn a lot about both teams week 1.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah. This is
Mania 2.0.
This is such a great schedule start for this team, like to gain its legs by the time it goes home to play Kansas City. Like, this is a progress, like the Raiders, Panthers, okay, like kind of pretty much bottom tier-ish teams. You have 2 weeks to kind of figure your stuff out, gain your legs on this team. Then you play the Steelers, which obviously isn't Kansas City, but is more of a challenge than those 2 teams. And then you play Kansas City. So, like, these first 4 weeks is kind of a build-up, and we kind of get to see what this team is by their bye week. And then
this team could be interesting. When you look at the schedule, if they can somehow stay relevant, like under Harbaugh, 15 on, they can win all those games.
They could go 500.
And like Harbaugh's never lost a season as an NFL coach too. Like he's never had a losing season. Like
if you look at the back end of that schedule, if they were somehow to stay relevant in it, this could be a wild card team. Like with the improvement of head coach, you have a special quarterback. Like if you have a really good season out of Ladd McConkey, and somehow Quentin Johnson gets going, and they somehow keep their running backs upright. Look at that back end of the schedule. I mean, outside of the Chiefs game there, week 15 on, they can win out those games and possibly go on a run to make the postseason.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what, like, I don't think they're going to make a splash in the postseason. I don't think they're going to be better than some teams that don't make playoffs if they do. But this schedule puts them in a place where they could call this a wild card team.
This is a bad schedule. That's why.
This is a really it's a great schedule.
Easy schedule. It's
balanced.
Very
balanced. They have their tough games like the Chiefs. Chiefs games. You have the Falcons. You have the Bengals, you have the Ravens in there, and the Browns. Like they have a few.
It'll stretch,
It's a
but
balanced schedule. It's a balanced schedule.
9-14 minus the Titans is pretty rough, but
Having to play the Chiefs on the road in December, the Patriots especially on the road in December, depending on when that game's played, day wise.
they're not Miami.
They're not.
They're going to run the ball.
yeah.
I know.
And
I don't want to watch another Chargers game where they win 6-0 against the Patriots. Like they just ran up the score on the second field goal there.
There is pretty much exactly 7 days between each and every game after that bye week. So like the bye being early is not really too much of an issue because you don't have any short rest times between any of these games. Like every single game is 7 days pretty much, or even 1 or 2 more. So like you won't have any of those kinds of issues. Yeah, I don't know. I think this team has a ton of travel though. I think I saw that this team travels more than any other team in the league this year.
Look, they got to go to the East Coast. What? Steelers, Eastern time zone. Browns, Eastern time zone. Falcons, Patriots.
Carolina.
But they have the days. Like I really don't think the bye week being week 5 is too much of a. If anything, that gives them time early to adjust to playing like that 4-game stretch that I said, which will show a lot, and then they play an easy or divisional game against the Broncos. Yeah, Cards. I mean, like, if you guys had to put a number, where are we at?
500.
500, pretty much.
9. There's no such thing as 500 anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm counting both either direction of 9.
Jake has chalked up a tie somewhere in the schedule, but he won't be revealing where it is.
That's fine. You know what?
Week 18. You know what?
There's a tie on the schedule.
Week 18. It's the Raiders. It's the Raiders thing, but Brandon Staley's not an idiot, and they'll actually tie this time. That's what it's going to be.
It'll bring everything full circle, and then they can move forward.
That's how it is.
The curse will be broken.
That's exactly how it happens. That was Raiders Chargers, right?
Yeah, it was.
And then Brandon Staley's like, nah.
Yeah, the greatest Week 18 game of all time. Sorry, there's never been one better.
Yeah.
I remember staying up till like 1 in the morning, like 12:30, because that game went like super late.
Because it was overtime, and it was like
they had triple zero.